In this video, I'm going to show you how I went about carving Gollum from Lord of the Rings in a piece of cottonwood bark. My original concept for the design of the carving was to make it look like Gollum was either hiding behind some rocks or sticking out of a tree and creeping behind the hobbits as he did in the book and the movies. So to begin, I start by removing the outer layer of bark and almost like a window shape where Gollum will be sticking out of. Creating a mounded shape helps give me an idea of where I want to position Gollum's face, and I take some rough measurements with my ruler and caliper just to sketch on where Gollum's head will be positioned. Once I'm happy with the sketch, I start using my chisels to outline and remove some of the bark around Gollum's head. I'm staying pretty shallow because I want to make sure I have all the features in place where I want them before I remove too much of the bark. Now that I'm happy with the placement of the head, I'm going a little more aggressive with my cuts so I can give some depth to the carving. I'm also using my chisel to find the shape of the nose and dig out the eye channels. Cottonwood bark has a tendency to chip and break apart as you're carving, so I'm really careful to use my gouge to kind of outline the shape of the nose and then use the chisel, and I'm using a skew tip to kind of lower the cheeks around it. At this point, I'm also starting to think about the shape of Gollum's eyes. I'm not going too crazy about the detail, but I want to mark out the depth of the eyes so I don't carve too much away. One of the key characteristics of Gollum's face is that muzzle and really pronounced smile lines. So using my knife, I round the shape of the muzzle where the mouth will be and dig into the smile lines and around the nose and nostrils. I use a large V tool to cut a line between the upper and lower lip, and then a gouge to define where I want the lower lip to be. I use my skew tool to remove any of the wood where the teeth will eventually be. Now that Gollum's main facial features are set into place, I use my knife to outline around Gollum's head and then carve away any of that excess wood in between the edge of his head and the outside bark that I want to remain. This is going to help give me that effect that he looks like he's either hiding or coming out of some rocks or a tree. Using my knife, I start defining Gollum's upper lip, and as I carve, I notice that I didn't really like the position of Gollum's lower lip. This is a good example of why I don't like to spend too much time on one detail or one feature of a carving. By going around and outlining outside of Gollum's head, I was able to look at Gollum with a different perspective, and I saw that the mouth was going to be too closed, and the original concept for this carving was that his mouth would be open more so it can have those gnarly teeth sticking out. So now that I'm more happy with the design, I'm using my knife to define the lower lip and give that flat look where Gollum's teeth will eventually be. Up to this point in the carving, I've really been concentrating on the main shapes of Gollum's face and placing out where the eyes, nose, and mouth will be. Now that I'm happy with those rough shapes, I'm going in with small U-gouge and my knife to give more definition to Gollum's eye. He's got a really heavy brow, so I'm taking time to cut in with my knife and carving up to it to kind of give the shape of Gollum's eye. I'm also drawing in his lower lid, and I'll use my knife to put a stop cut, and then I'll carve the eye down to that cut. should mention that when I'm adding these stop cuts around Gollum's eye, I'm being very gentle so I avoid any chip outs that are so common when carving with cottonwood bark. Now that I'm pretty happy with the shape of the eyes, I'm going to walk away from them for a little bit, focus on some other parts of the carving, so when I go back to the eyes to finish the detail, I have that fresh perspective and I can kind of make any corrections that I want to before I set in some of the more permanent parts of the eye like the pupils. So that brings me to probably my favorite part of the carving, putting these little teeth in. So as you can see, I'm using my knife and just giving really shallow stop cuts around the teeth that I drew in. I'm then using a micro chisel and carving up to the stop cut to relieve the teeth. This takes a while. I'm really, as I said, taking shallow cuts because if I'm too aggressive, those teeth are going to pop out. Now I didn't finish the teeth here, but as you can probably guess what I'm going to say, I'm taking a break from them because if I concentrate too long, I know eventually a tooth is going to fall out and I'm going to be mad at myself. So I go to focus on another part of the carving and putting in Gollum's pupils. Similar to the teeth, I draw in the lines and then use my knife to make stop cuts around the circle that I drew. I'm then taking a small chisel and just scraping away up to that stop cut. I repeat that probably a dozen times until I'm happy with the depth of the pupil. I also use small files to kind of clean out any fuzzies or little pieces of wood that chip off inside the pupil. From this angle you can see how deep I actually go with the pupil. With the eyes done, I can start giving some more attention to Gollum's eyebrows and the wrinkles that he has all around his face. Now that all the major carving is done, I'm using my files to give shape to some of the details in the wrinkles and to clean out some areas that were hard to reach. Having the carving off the mounting stand also gives me the opportunity to reach into places that I couldn't before, so I can use my knife and small chisels to give even more definition to the eyes so they pop out. Even though I was pretty happy with the way the teeth came out, I used my Dremel just to clean out in between some of the areas that were hard to reach with my knife or file. I used 220 grit sandpaper just to clean out around the eyes and soften some of the other features in the carving. I went to use a toothbrush to kind of clean away some dust that I couldn't blow away. And by accident I used a brush that had some polish on it. So this was not the polish I intended on using, but overall I'm happy with the way it came out. I didn't catch it on video, but I also used some acrylic paint to get into Gollum's eyes and mouth, just so they popped out a little more. Overall, I'm really excited about the way this carving came out. I think it captured Gollum's likeness and gives that feeling that I was going for, that Gollum looks like he's hiding behind some rocks or a tree, ready to come out and get you. So if you like this video and want to see some more, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.